We still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. The return of the Entertainers is a walking football match that takes place at Gateshead Leisure Centre on Saturday the 6th of June 2026 in aid of Age UK North Tyneside. Sponsored by Shout Digital and Darren Baldwin Funerals. Tickets available from our website or from Voucher. There's also an opportunity for you to play in the game, either with or against the legends. Go to our website nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk for more details. 29th of January 2027 sees an evening with Beardsley, Cole and Ferdinand at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, hosted by John Gibson. Tickets are on sale now from the box office 0191 243 1171 or tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk or directly from us at our website. Northern Horizon is a Blake 7 convention in aid of Age UK North Tyneside. Tickets available from our website. And Rebel Base Northeast, a Star Wars fan convention, Sunday the 2nd of August at the Copthorne Hotel. Tickets available on our website. The Craze, Fred Dinage, Ronnie, Reggie and Me takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, box office 0191 243 1171 or tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. That takes place Wednesday the 11th of November at 7:30. We've also got some books available on our website. Will Scott's popular Entertainers book, 92 to 97, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, is available now. And The Promoter and the Photographer, 25 years of bringing the stars to Tyneside, all proceeds going to Age UK. All books available, nufcmatters.co.uk.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe.
Good afternoon, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is another episode of Ask George.
Hello everybody. Hi.
Good to see you, George, and as always an hour's worth of questions heading your way from our wonderful viewers. Gary was first in after Tom. Tom, yeah, yours has sneaked in at the top. George, with Bruno Guimaraes a doubt for tomorrow, who would you play instead of him?
Oh, I think if Tonali's fit, the easy fit is Tonali. I have to say that had Miley been fit, I might risk young Miley because he's on fire at the moment, but he's not fit either. So I think I'd go for Tonali as the nearest fit. But then that assumes that also that there aren't going to be many changes from the other night with Eddie and you can't assume that sort of thing with any. But the short answer to your question is I'd be giving Tonali the role. It suits him down the ground.
Okay, Gary, question is quite a long one. He says, George, Steve, with the new filtering out yesterday that the club are looking at buying 2 clubs in Europe from 3 possible countries, Belgium, France, and possibly one of the Scandinavian countries. Does this show that the PIF commitment to our club is as strong as ever? News is that Ross Wilson and Jack Ross are heavily involved in finalising details that will allow us to buy under-18 players from the continent before they go elsewhere. Is this exciting news?
Well, it is to me. I mean, at last there's a plan about under-18s because it hasn't seemed to be a very coherent one up to now, and it hasn't helped matters when appoint under-21 coaches and they disappear within a few weeks, or months. So no, I think it is good. The other thing that does excite me about it is it emphasises PIF's continued commitment to football. If that was ever in doubt with that, involvement in World Cups and things like that. So no, it for me it's a good sign. And as I say, seeing the director of football and others getting involved in something positive for under-18s, wherever they come from, is good news. And from what I see on on social media and on the press, there are some startling under-18s coming through now. I mean, there's a couple of kids that have been banging the goals in at under-21, never mind under-18. So that, yeah, for me it's good news, Gary. Yeah.
Okay, next question comes from JRWS. He says, question for George, what's the greatest moment you've ever had as a Newcastle United fan?
Oh, as a fan, oh gosh, I want to keep it real because obviously in the early days the FA Cup wins were great, but I was just a kid, I think the realism that how passionate we are. We in a short space of time, the win of the Fairs Cup really stirred things even more for me, especially as that team included some local lads, like Pop Robson and Alan Fogan and so on, and at a time when we were all looking towards getting some local talent. And following that, of course, it was a defeat, but the impression it left with me about how passionate we are was our 74 defeat. And I think it left a mark on people like Malcolm MacDonald, who said when he got off the bus after that parade, this is us losing. What the hell would they have done if we'd won? And I think that's an abiding memory, that the passion, just the sheer passion about what we do and what we like to do. But I think the Fairs Cup win, in terms of great achievements, was at the time was the thing. Was absolutely fantastic. We got over a long time past the FA Cup wins and that sort of thing. But that was one of the moments. The others are individual matches, like the European matches, Barcelona and PSG recently, and all of that. That's all super as well. But I think the thing that kind of ignited things a bit for me was the Fairs Cup win.
Okay, good stuff. John Askew has sent an email, but he's in the chat as well. He says, is George concerned about the academy? I remember they used to talk about it in the 80s. I think Sunderland's was far better in those days, and little seems to have changed.
Well, I've got to admit that I have personal knowledge of the Sunderland setup, and it's been leaving us standing for the last 10 years. I'm not as upset as I was, because they seem to be doing something about it. But for a long time we were second best. My grandson Joss when Neil lived near Consett, he for a while. Joss used to play for a team near Anfield Plain, and sometimes if Neil couldn't take him, I'd go over and take him. And at the matches, I've never been to a match yet in Durham, in that area, where there wasn't somebody from Sunderland there. Never anybody from Newcastle there. Very rarely, very rarely. So they had not just the academy, the building and the grounds. They also had a network of people looking after the academy, the sort of thing that we're just doing now, in my opinion. We went through a period where we lost touch with. I think we lost touch with local knowledge. You know, we seem to think that the only place that could get any players was Wallsend Boys Club, and that wasn't true. There was lots of other things happening. See, and going way back. I mean, you know, in Wallsend we had people like Peter Kirkley, who became Newcastle's youth development officer for a while, and Brian Motson, who scouted and fed all sorts of kids to Newcastle and particularly and one or two other clubs. We now seem to have started to do something like that, because they're picking kids up as young as 7 or 8 now. Yes, I was concerned. I'm less concerned now because they seem to be proactive in the area. But you're absolutely right. Sunderland had a march on us for 10 years at least, and I'm not sure. You know, we've still got work to do to outdo them.
Gary says, George, what are your thoughts on the future of Nick Walter-Marder at the club? Do you think, as I do, that with coaching and a change in tactics he can come good, or would you sell him in the summer, as others say?
No, I'm the Nick Walter-Marder fan. You just need to look closely at the assists he's given in terms of goals, and the very clever outside of the right foot, left foot passes that he's given. He's not you can't label right foot, left foot to him. He's got deft touches in both. He's had a couple of cushion headers to make goals for others, so that there's a footballer in there. It just getting him to, getting him into a team that he can work in. If you're in any doubt, it's worth chasing his YouTube stuff when he plays for Germany. And it's just totally different. And also reading some of the stuff the German team managers have. A few months ago they'd nearly given up on their World Cup dream, but suddenly they've got a centre forward and I think they can do a lot better. So I'm hopeful that we'll get something out of Nick Walter-Marder, and I just hope and pray that the kid, remember he's still quite young, that the kid doesn't get crushed by the weight of criticism that's going his way. People are right to criticise if it's not going well, but I sometimes think that even when he's doing well, he doesn't get the credit for it. So I'm a fan. Don't mind admitting that, but if every player has his price. If somebody comes in the summer with the amount of money that suits Newcastle, they'll sell him. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I'd be disappointed if they did, because I think there's a future there for Nick Walter-Marder. Just using him right, that's all.
Nick Walter-Marder's like a Ferrari, and we as a club are trying to drive him like he's a Peugeot, says GRW. Interesting way of saying it. Question from John. I've had that one. It's this one. Does George think the planning for the summer window is well underway? How important is the summer window?
Well, I've got to tell you, John, if it's not, I'd be very disappointed, because they've let this window go, but surely they were doing work, and that work has got to be geared towards the summer window now. And it's important, because wherever we finish, this next season has to be a bit of a landmark season, in my view. We can't have two fallow seasons. one after the other. But I don't think we will. I think we'll do better this year than people imagine. So yes, it is an important window, and I'm sure that Ross Wilson and others have already done a lot of homework. And I just look at some of the names that slip through occasionally about, players in Italy and other places being talking about signing pre-signing agreements and this sort of thing, or being given permission to, and some of them are quite exciting. So, but I've got to say that I would be very, very disappointed if they aren't up to speed for the summer window.
John says, we've got all the right players, but not all necessarily in the right order. Remember Christmas 71, he says.
Yeah.
George,
Yeah.
who would you play in goal tomorrow? Would it be Pope or Ramsdale, says Tom?
I'd stick with Pope. He seems to have an understanding with the back four and so on, and it's marginal, I've got to say, John, because Ramsdale's had some good games, but he's had some iffy games as well, and his penalty saves have gone down very well. But it's more than about that. The infuriating thing about Nick Pope is if you want a shot stopper, Nick Pope fits the bill. It's the other bits of goalkeeping where he sometimes falls foul. He's flapping instead of catching, and he's kicking the ball out from goal kicks, and when he's supposed to be aiming for our players. Very frustrating. But on the balance, I would put Nick Pope in.
Okay, and next question. George, after the CEO interview and news coming out about increasing capacity by 15,000, do you think we're more likely to develop St James's Park rather than buy and build a new ground?
I'll be honest, I've always felt that was what was likely to happen. I'm a bit underwhelmed at the 15,000. Our chairman keeps saying he wants us number one. Then I think if we're going to go be number one, we're going to need to do more than just 15,000, in my opinion. And the other reason that I've felt St James's Park would be redeveloped rather than new one is that the new modern building materials these days, a lot of the objections about after the 66 debacle and the John Hall debacle, modern building materials would allow incredible designs which would let the light through, using more plexiglass rather than steel cladding and that sort of thing. So I've always felt it was likely that they would develop St James's Park, and also the buildings behind the stand are. The people talk about Liston as though Liston was the end of the day. Well, it's not. Then you can come to a negotiation with the council about the Liston because it's them that helps to put the Liston on. And I think a development plan that say included some sort of hospitality stuff being put in those buildings behind that are at the moment just used as mostly as student accommodation. Could be a fascinating development. So hand on heart, I've always felt and hoped that we'd stay where we are and just develop the ground. But I underwhelmed when he said 15,000, because I think that's a mismatch. There's that many. We're desperate to get tickets now without making it even worse. So I mean, that whole interview was, for me, was a wasted opportunity for the CEO, to be honest. So he told me nothing. And some of the things he did say were eye-opening, especially the stuff about Wissa's injury. So, yeah, it's good that he mentioned it, and it's in his mind, and it's in Piff's mind. But I was underwhelmed slightly with his description of what he thought would happen.
George, what's your thoughts on the Nations League opponents for England? In case you missed it, George, England have been drawn against Spain, Croatia and Czechia.
Well, it's one of those things in tournament football, isn't it? If you're going to win it, at some stage, their teams you've got to beat. And Spain particularly, for example, who are, world champions, European champions, and goodness knows what. So they are the standout. But the fact that people go on with this group of death and all the rest of it, well, it isn't. It isn't. You're going to win the tournament. You've got to beat all of the teams. And in that group, apart from Spain, the others are beatable from England, the way they've been playing, and on a good day, even Spain. We're not that far behind them.
No, certainly not. George, does seeing Brentford's performance last night make our defeat by them last weekend a little less bruising, says Dave?
No, not really. It helps a little, but only a little. The performance against Brentford was abject, is the only word I can use, and revealed some things which horrified me. I mean, I don't want to hit the lad too hard because he's probably down a bit at the moment, but Wissa's performance in the first half was, we played with 10 men. He spent the time in no man's land. I've never looked at the statistics at how many touches he had, but I think if I did, it would be embarrassing. And others as well who seem to be right off the ball, off the game altogether, when a little bit more challenge, a little bit more effort, and that was a winnable game for me. So yes, it did make it look a bit better, but only marginally, I've got to say. That Brentford game was a bad one, and we should have done better than we did.
Okay, no more questions. Well, I've got one from Gary in the chat. Who is your go-to journalist for news that you always find to be the most accurate?
Oh, well, I've got to say, the guy from the Times whose name escapes me. Oh, dear me. Anyway, and the other one's Craig Hope is, I find, is reasonably reliable.
Okay. Okay, we've got a few questions from John by email. John Askew, that is. He said, we might not make Europe, and if not, there might be a debate on Eddie's future. But has he had a reasonable crack at the whip this season? 4 competitions, including Champions League, with an undercooked squad due to a highly dubious window in the summer, and nothing except the departures of Lascelles in January. That's arguably club failure with little to do with Eddie. Should and will that be taken into account?
Well, I think it would be harsh if you didn't. Look, when the takeover happened 4 years ago, if somebody had sat down and said, in 4 years, we'll have had 3 cup finals, 4 semi-finals, 2 trips into Europe in 3 years, and a Carabao Cup win, and in 4 years, remember where we started. We were shoe on for the second of it, for the championship when Eddie walked through the door, and he's still got players in his team that Steve Bruce wouldn't even give a game to. Look at Fabian Schär and Jacob Murphy, and who put real shifts in for this team. They're not the best in the world, wouldn't pretend they are, but by and large, when they put their minds to it, we can beat anybody. And that ability to switch it on has got to happen in the dressing room. So I think it would be very harsh. Yes, I'd be disappointed if we didn't get into Europe, because it means more than just kudos for the team. It affects all the financial things as well, because it affects all the multipliers and indicators for PSRs and things like that. So especially the way the Premier League use them. So I would be disappointed, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. But I'd be disappointed if they decided that was a reason to get rid of Eddie Howe, unless they came up with something very imaginatively for the club. But I just get a sense that they trust Eddie, that they've got a good relationship, and he has, if I've got to say, if I was manager, I would feel certainly over the last window, and sometimes over other things as well, he hasn't had the best support from higher up. We've not had. He's sometimes at those press conferences since he took over. He's had to answer questions about human rights in Saudi Arabia and everything else, and he's just been left to get on with it. And similarly with the PSR stuff, he's just been left to get on with that as well. Some of which, disappoints me, because I'm not an accountant, would never pretend to be, but I know that from the money from our former centre forward, which the pro Liverpool journalists say we got 125 million. Well, we didn't. We got 147 million because we made them pay his bonuses, and on top of that, there's prize money that we've won, and money for the league, and money for how we did in other things, and that's all sitting there somewhere. So while they used that as the blanket reason, I think it's a bit false now. So hopefully Eddie will get the backing of that come the summer window. But I really would be disappointed if they used those sort of statistics to get rid of him in the summer. I don't see that happening. Well, I hope it doesn't happen. I hope we're a bit more sensitive than that. God forbid we ever get in the position that Nottingham Forest in, for example, where you've got the senior players going and having a cup of tea with the owner and then decide to sack the manager after the game. I mean, it's just bizarre. Gibbs White, apparently, I haven't read it this morning, complaining to the owner that the manager trains them too hard. My God, it doesn't do Elliot Anderson any harm. He's a shoe-in for these England spots. So, you've got to be careful what you wish for, is the old saying. And I think in football at the moment, that's particularly right. So I'd be disappointed if they used that as a reason to get rid of Eddie.
Gary says, George, of all the players we've sold over the years, who has left the most regret with you? I mean, if you were asking me this, Gary, I'm doing an event with them tonight. Gascoigne, Waddle and Beardsley.
Yes. Well, and the other one, Les Ferdinand, as well. He went too soon, in my opinion. I realise, there's reasons people do these things. In fact, I think if you pressed Les, I think he would admit that his move to Spurs wasn't a very good idea. So we've had numbers that have gone on and done, like Waddle, like Beardsley, although Peter came back, Paul Gascoigne. You've run the names off that I would have run off, and others as well. That I'm trying to think. There's the prominent ones that have left and caused all sorts of havoc. I'd leave it at that. But the big ones are there. You've named them, Steve. It's difficult to go beyond them. And players who moved and for strange reasons, and they instead of going up, they went down. I'm thinking about Alan Suddick, for example. I think if he'd stayed at Newcastle, he would have been an England player. But because he went to Blackpool because that's where his wife wanted to be, because she was an ice skater, didn't do him any good at all. So there's been others that have been.
We'll have a quick ad break while you get the door, George. Here we go.
Right, okay, Steve. Thank you.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com, or contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to United Group Travel, our fanzine sponsor. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Deposits from £50 per person. A big thanks to Media Arts. Their website, www.media-arts.co.uk. Email info@media-arts.co.uk or telephone 0191 637 5061. If you want to help support the channel, then you can click the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. It is free. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to share to your social media. A big thanks to Sports Social Podcast Network. You can listen to us on the road, on this network, or by tuning into iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can also join the channel by hitting the join button on YouTube or go to our website, nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. You can pay a one-off fee of £25 and you'll receive a membership card, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a key ring, a badge and a pen. £25, nufcmatters.co.uk. Okay, welcome back to Ask George, and we are just going to play our usual Friday videos for those of you who will expect them on a Friday as Newcastle take on Aston Villa this weekend. Scunny Mag, as often does, sends us a video to tell you where to go if you're going to Villa Park tomorrow.
Tsunami, Villa away, time for a bit of revenge, everything he needs coming up. Okay, Villa Park. It's located just to the north of Birmingham, out towards the M6, and your nearest train station is Witton, which is just to the north of the ground. So if you are coming through Birmingham New Street, your cross-country trains will get you up to Newcastle. For those driving in, parking, it's changed a little bit recently. There used to be a fan car park just near the Yew Tree pub. That's now been developed into a staff car park, so that's not available anymore. There are local matchday ones that pop up. You'll be looking at a tenner. Failing that, chuck it in a city centre, pay and display, and away you go. Speaking of the city centre, let's do some pubs. If you're coming in on the train, just outside the station, across the road, the Shakespeare is just on your left. Dead handy. First one you'll come to. We went in there recently for the cup game against Birmingham, and it was okay, nice and full, but as soon as anybody started a song, the door staff were all over you. So it's a bit weird. I don't get it. It's like it wasn't unique to that place either. We went in somewhere else, somebody started a song and the door staff were on them again. It's like a Birmingham city centre thing. And that having been said, most of the pubs in the city centre, they're going to let you in. A few might have problems with your shirt, especially the Wetherspoons, but generally they're welcoming, they're friendly, they just don't like you singing. I suppose you can live with that and save your voice for the game. Anyway, rant over, moving on, just up the hill from the Shakespeare, going up Bennett's Hill, and you've got two next to each other. The Sun on the Hill is the first one, and the Briar Rose just next door to it is the Wetherspoons. Goes, senses dizzy, get you to the front of both of those. Then there's another Wetherspoons called the Square Peg. It's on your way towards the ground, and that's probably a more popular one with people heading to Villa from the city centre. Right outside there's a bus stop. The number 7 will take you all the way to Witton for the away turnstiles, and then if you're staying over, you've got the Travel Lodge and Recent Voices Finest, and then your Holiday Inn Express is at Spoon Hotels Sparks. Heading up to the ground and on pubs near the ground worth mentioning, the Yew Tree and the Witton Arms both used to be away friendly, but it no longer accepts away fans. But as you're moving up to the ground, you want to be on the north corner, as I mentioned. Access turnstiles Q are the lower block, and you might be able to get a beer. If it's got P on it, you're in the upper, and you won't be able to get a beer. But Mice Fire Small will get you into the check-in area in front of those turnstiles. And that's me done. Cheers. See you in the next one.
Toon Stato looks ahead to the game.
Hello everyone, some quick stats before the 4th round FA Cup game against Aston Villa tomorrow at Villa Park. Newcastle and Aston Villa have met 6 times in the FA Cup previously, and 5 times one of the two teams has reached the final. Actually, 2 of the times the two teams have met each other in the final. In 1905, Aston Villa winning, and 1924, Newcastle taking revenge and winning their second FA Cup. Now, Newcastle has a pretty decent record, winning 6 in their last 11 away games in the FA Cup. However, when it comes to Premier League opposition in the FA Cup, Newcastle have lost 10 out of their last 13 games in the tournament. When it comes to players, Morgan Rogers is the star man for Aston Villa. He has 4 goal involvements in 5 FA Cup games, scoring against Tottenham both this season and last season. Mentioning Tottenham, Aston Villa eliminated Tottenham now in the 3rd round, and they make it to the 4th round naturally. But the last time they went to the 5th round of the FA Cup in consecutive seasons was between 2009 and 2011. Hence, on paper, Newcastle stand a pretty good chance to make it through. When it comes to the Premier League, of course, Newcastle won only for the 3rd time in 13 away games. And actually now they have 13 games away from home with 13 goals scored and 13 points. Jacob Ramsey scored his first goal for the club, while Nick Pope made with his 100th appearance for the club. Let's hope we save the season also in this tournament, however let.
Thank you to Andre and to Scunny Mag. Great stuff. Eddie had his press conference this morning, George, and we haven't really got any positive news with regards to injuries for tomorrow's game, but certainly on the horizon for Qarabağ and Man City, looks like we'll be almost at full strength. Both Bruno, Joe Linton and Lewis Miley all missing tomorrow. Joe Linton looking the closest to return, potentially on midweek fixture against Qarabağ. Miley shouldn't be too far behind, and then Bruno shouldn't be too far behind that. Also, news on Tino Livramento. He is back running now, just getting his fitness up. So he is on course for his first week in March return, which is great news from a right back perspective, and great news for Eddie Howe, of course. So yes, things starting to slowly improve on that. And the FA Cup, it's an important cup, George. It's a one which you had the pleasure as a youngster of seeing Newcastle win 3 times in, almost as many years, 51, 52, 55, and, some great memories from that period. And Eddie emphasised how important the FA Cup is this season in Newcastle because, having been to Wembley and won the Carabao Cup, he'd love an opportunity, as would we, to get the FA Cup final and give that a go, George.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's. I don't know what it is about Newcastle and the FA Cup, but we, until recent years, we were one of the top winners, and we're still not far behind in some of them. But it always seemed to liven the city up. The very talk of the FA Cup, and in the old days, queuing for the tickets to go to the matches and this sort of thing, and all the kerfuffle there was in my family. To get tickets for the final. I mean, my father went to all 3 by peculiar means, getting these final tickets from bloody Buckingham Palace of all places. So yeah, it's always very exciting. Still excites me. Has all sorts of other memories. I mean, one of the first matches that Neil and I saw together, he started to go with his mates. But then, odd times we'd go together, and one of the first we saw together was when Ian Rush was a kid playing for Crewe and destroyed with St James's Park in the FA Cup. So yeah, it's the highs and the lows. Thank goodness somebody else got a battering off a non-league team recently, because that means the BBC might drop the Hereford thing that they've been running for the last 30 years. It means so much to the area, and I think that comes out of the fact that we've always seemed to have done reasonably well. I mean, yes, look at the wins, but also have a look at the semi-finals we got to. Even in the modern era, when we played the semi-finals at Wembley, I remember driving the lads down for quite a few. So. It is an exciting occasion and an exciting time, and yes, it would be great if we did well, and I've got a feel we will. I'm still convinced that we'll sneak a win on Saturday.
Yeah, you're still going with a 2-1, like a sneaky 2-1.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to the questions in the chat. I know we've got a few starting to mount up now. Who's going to win the World Cup, George, in the States this summer? My money's on Spain, says JRWS.
Yes, that's difficult to look past. If Brazil could get the whole squad fit, they'll challenge as well, I think. But I wouldn't bet against Spain. You know, they just seem to have got a set of managers at the national level and a network of feeding players in that seems to be working for them. Because you look at the European tournaments, whether it's under 17s or under 23s, Spain are usually in the final, and quite often it's us that they're playing as well, of course. So I think Spain's not a bad shout, but I don't think Brazil will be far away either. I'd like to think we'd be in the shout. Whether or not we've got the squad to actually win it, I don't know. But Tuchel seems to have got the knack of winning tournament football. We've just talked about Livramento. When we played in the under 21s Europe thing, he dropped Livramento out of the big squad and sent them to that under 21s thing to get experience of tournament football. Now, I've never seen managers talk openly about that sort of thing, England managers. So we could have a shot at it. But as I say, I wouldn't be backing against Spain very hard.
Yeah, Dan says England, obviously. Optimistic. Tom says, George, who do you want to sign a new contract this season in the summer?
The list as long as my arm. First would be Lewis Hall for me, to be honest. Not far behind Livramento. And I'm not sure who else is up for new contracts. But they're the two I would have shooed in, straight away. I wouldn't even let the season finish. I would be talking to them before the season finishes. Otherwise, people would come in. I mean, there's already huge rumours about Livramento going to Manchester City in the summer. That, in my opinion, that would be a disaster. It would. But if people are interested in him, the left back, left-sided, anything, left footers are always in demand. And when you've got the skill that young Lewis Hall has and the ability to go forward like he does from the back, although I'm not even sure he'll end up being left back all his career, but I would sign Lewis Hall and Livramento before the season finishes, if it's up to me.
Okay, next question. Well, actually, it's I'll read this first from Facebook. Richie, I like this. He says, those who constantly want Howe replaced should look back at Man United, who were a game away from sacking Alex Ferguson all those years ago, but the hierarchy took a punt on him. And as they say, the history is there to see. Eddie Howe was undoubtedly the correct man for the future of all things NUFC simples. Strong opinion, Richie. Would you agree with that, George?
I would, and that's the example I've been given to people when I've talked with them, because Manchester United were a game away from going into second division, which for them even then would have been an absolute disaster. And they bit the bullet and hung on to Ferguson and give him the fresh air of a new season, and then the ball started to roll. He picked it up and took them. I mean, they've never been out of the winning things since, have they? He's taken them to all sorts of victories and right up to world club level. So, yeah, it's a good example to follow. And the other examples are, in the modern era, the number of times that how many managers have Wolves had, and they go up and they go down, and West Brom up and down, and now Nottingham Forest, this new owner, it's just bizarre. to get yourself in a position where you allow players to go behind the manager's back and complain to the owner. No, don't want any of that, thank you. And I don't think anybody would, because the one thing I sense, even in this time where we feel we've had a bad run, that thing at Tottenham where you were at the match, Steve, where the players pushed Eddie Howe forward, sent a lot of messages, I think, you know, and we were also that particular game. I don't think he's had as much credit as he should for it. You know, Anthony Gordon gets labelled, he won't play this, he won't play that, won't play the other. My view of Anthony Gordon is stick a black and white shirt on him, he'd play anyway. In fact, he put a green one on, he'd gone in goal. And he showed on Tuesday night that centre forward's not what people think he is, but he made a better job of it than the ones that we've got. I've got to say, he worried Spurs throughout. They couldn't settle on the ball, and his footwork to lay on the goal for Ramsey was second to none. Brilliant. So, yeah, it go back to what I said before. You don't. You got to be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm. Gary's asking a slightly different way of asking the question he asked before. What's the most emotional experience watching us play live, George? So it has to be a game that you were actually at. I think for me, it's probably the cup final win, because obviously for me, I was at the League Cup final win. I never thought I'd see the day. So certainly that one. Well, there's not many games turn. But I was there. I was there live.
Even watching it on TV, it was emotional. But if you want the one I was at, was the semi-final when we beat Tottenham at Old Trafford. That was such an all-round experience. Was incredible, that one. And when that second goal went in, that stand at the Trafford end, it shook. I thought it was going to come down. No wonder they're saying they need a new ground. I mean, that's got 15 years ago, whatever. And that was really emotional because the occasion was, but I was there with my son and Neil and all our friends. You know, I was driving the big car to take them all there. And it just went on. Even after the match, there was some surprising things. They didn't want to get stuck in the traffic, so we just found the nearest pub to Old Trafford and went in. And one of the passengers, Neil's friend, was a senior policeman in Northumbria, and we'd only been sitting down and just got our drinks. And he came back from the loo and he said, "Get your coats on, how we get in the car." So we went out and we got in the car. And so now when he said to him, "What's the matter?" He says, "You watch. It's gonna be a drug raid in that pub." So we're sitting in the car, and the pub was surrounded by policemen going in on a drugs raid into this pub. So it was an eventful day and quite an emotional one because I was there with the lads, driving them.
Okay. Next question is another one from John on email. He said, next season, it is the centenary of you know what. Frankly, it's a disgraceful abomination. Realistically, when do you think we'll be able to compete to win the Premier League?
Oh, realistically, I mean, the chief executive talked about 2030, I'd like to think that was true, but if we can get, in the next, if we can knock on the door in the next 4 years, I would be happy. But I'd love to think it would be 2030, but we've got some work to do if we're going to do that, or the club's got some work to do if they're going to do that, and certainly back in Eddie Howe, they would have to. But I think it'll be at least another 4 or 5 years before we start knocking on the door of the title.
Okay. Next question is from Gary. He says, some of us older ones will remember the FA Cup final being an all-day event on TV, one of the blue ribbon events. Has it become less significant, George?
Well, it has to a lot of people, but I think that's because of the the competition of other things being shown at the same time. You know, the whole country was locked in the cup final in those days, and there was, you know, it was on every channel. Initially, it was just the BBC, of course, you know, we used to at home we used to have a you know, cup final day of it. We used to all meet. Either at my house, my mother's, depending what year you're talking about. But if it was when I was still at home, it would be at my mother's or my grandmother's. We'd all collect as a family, and one or two friends would come round, and it would start with, you know, with nibbles in the morning after breakfast, and lunch, you know, prepared by the ladies, and then right through till the match was over, and then the drinks would open. Although the lads would open the drinks by the time the match had started, and it would be a whole day, and last till till thrown out time, you know, and probably end up with two or three of them sleeping on the floor and not wanting to go home. So yes, that's the kind of thing it was. But nowadays, it has more competition even on TV about the things that go on. There was very few things challenged the FA Cup for TV time, where now things like golf and sometimes horse race and other things, there are other big sporting events happening that challenge it a little bit. And I think that's what's taking the shine off a little bit.
Yeah, certainly think so. John says, I think no Europe next season can be a good thing for the obvious reason there'll be less games and more cherished time for Eddie to work with a squad and train. And what's your thoughts, George?
No, I see the sentiment, what you're saying, but the season out would have such a damaging effect on the financial side of things. We really don't want to be in that position. We want to somehow hang on to a place in Europe as a means of getting all these multipliers and coefficients and whatever they use in Europe and in the Premier League, and keep them going forward. It's a season out means they go backwards again, and that's the last thing we need. But I understand the sentiment. I agree that he needs to be doing this and that and the other as well. But I'm sure it's not lost on him the importance of being in Europe.
Certainly not. George, thanks very much for your time today, mate. I've got to go and get myself ready for the big event. So thank you for joining us. Thanks to everybody in the chat and the moderators who've been in on an earlier shift today. Back tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning with the professionals.
Just for those that were curious, the doorbell was Rington's T-Man.
Good stuff, George. Look forward to seeing you on the Fans Forum on Monday. Take care, mate.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all. Thanks a lot.